Hello, everyone. This is the Nameless One, and tonight we are going to be doing the new Creator Roundup podcast. I have here quite a few different people. We're going to go through and have them introduce themselves here in a sec. But before I do, I want to remind everybody: don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, all that good stuff. We will be doing more of these in the future, so keep an eye out for that. There's also a bunch of links, including all of the socials for all of the guests tonight, so be sure to check all that out. And let's go ahead and get started. First up, I'm going to pick on Scarlet. Now, I want you to introduce who you are, whatever your preferred genre of music is, and what got you... Actually, we'll just do preferred genre of music and name.
Gotcha. Well, hello, everypony. I am Scarlet Fury. It's really hard for me to pick just a specific preferred genre of music, but if I had to go with one, it would be rock or metal.
Okay. Aether, your turn.
Howdy. Well, my preferred genre is all over the place, but I usually go a lot for composing or any kind of soundtrack type stuff more than anything.
Okay. Whirlwind.
Howdy. Most of you guys, I mostly do drumming stuff throughout the fandom, whether it be studio or live, but I also produce electronic music, and more recently I've been getting into orchestral music.
Blue.
Howdy, y'all. My name's BlueBrony, and my quite eclectic tastes in music, but we'll say hybrid orchestral electronic is my favorite.
Goonie, it's your turn.
I'm Forever Free Brony, and I really, really like classic rock and a singer-songwriter music. That's my favorite kind.
And KO.
I'm KaoKraft, and as for preferred genre, I don't really know either. I tend to go more towards the electronic singer-songwriter, or just whatever genre fits a particular vibe I'm trying to go for, I guess.
Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and just jump straight into it. So, I think the first question we'll go with is what got you guys into music first, and then just like pony music? What made you decide that was the route you wanted to go? And we'll start with Whirlwind.
Well, I would say I've had I started playing drums fairly late, around 17, and at that time I had listened to a lot of I listened to the pony stuff at the time, but like I was listening to like my rock and metal mix outside of pony, like Slipknot, Pantera, Korn, all that other stuff. But eventually, once I got better at drums, playing in the church, and then still listening to a lot of the fandom stuff, and I was a big fan of Forest Rain, Prince Whatever, Isambov at the time. And eventually I got my foot in the door to performing, and that's kind of where my journey started, was playing with Forest Rain at cons. And then outside of doing the drummer stuff or the drumming, I expressed interest in electronic music and producing because I got tired of being just a drummer. So eventually I started self-releasing my electronic stuff, and that kind of took a pause because I got more into playing drums more. But that's kind of where the journey keeps going right now, and I'm on path to releasing album number 2. I think that's pretty brief enough.
Okay, KO, your turn.
Shoot, all right. So I started playing instruments thanks to my mom and dad when I was really, really young, like around 6 years old. I think they had me start playing the violin and that sort of thing. And I started to kind of fall out of it after a while. And the main thing that really got me back into music in general was The Living Tombstone, when a friend introduced me into the FNAF sphere of music with I Can't Fix You. And then I started to kind of go down the rabbit hole of that stuff. And then I was like, hey, I like singing a lot. So I made this really crappy YouTube video of like this one me doing a vocal cover of this FNAF song that I really liked. And that just kind of blew up a little bit with my poorly edited character just kind of like sitting in the corner there doing the singing. And I just kind of been sticking with that ever since, and just, singing songs I like, as well as, attempting to write music about specific games and stuff that I like.
Okay. Blue.
Right. When I was growing up, I took piano lessons as I was a kid. I liked banging on my grandparents' piano next door, and so they decided to make me learn how to actually play it. And so, I kind of grew into first hating it, then loving it. I was a band nerd, so I did band in middle school, high school, and into college. And I developed a lot of music tastes just from between playing at church, playing at school, and singing and stuff. When I got into college, I got introduced to, first I got into ponies, and then I got into pony music just by exploring Equestria Daily, and that's kind of how I went from being more on the classical side of things to exploring a lot of different genres, and especially like electronic stuff. I wasn't really into electronics music before I got into pony music.
Okay. Scarlet, your turn.
All right, so my musical journey started pretty young. Basically, I saw the drummer at our church, and I was like, I want to do that. And my mom and dad were like, nope, first you got to learn piano. And I was like, okay. And so at about 4 years old, I started piano lessons. And at first, it was like pulling teeth to get me to practice. But eventually, when I reached about 10 years old, I was like, oh, I actually start enjoying this sort of music thing. And around that time, I also started taking percussion lessons and joining our local homeschool band. And then from there, I joined the Colorado Springs Youth Symphony, and we went on tour to a whole bunch of different places, playing percussion and all sorts of great stuff there. And then it wasn't until 2016 that I joined the pony fandom. Actually, thanks to one of my best friends, who's unfortunately no longer in the fandom. But he invited me to a convention one summer. I was like, you know what? What the heck? I'm bored. Let's see what this is about. And it absolutely blew me away. I think I saw Black Griffin perform and Forever Free Brony perform, actually. So that all inspired me to start down my own musical path of producing all sorts of different genres of music, not just the orchestral stuff that I grew up with. And I've been producing my music ever since. And at some point, I would like to perform live at a convention, but I do need to sort of work up a little bit of a repertoire first.
Okay. Forever Free Brony.
Well, I took piano lessons since I was 9, and started getting into other instruments when I was a teenager, probably about 17 or 16 when I started playing guitar. And so that was a good while ago. I'm 30 now, so and then later on, after a little bit, I discovered I discovered the fandom and didn't really want to write. Didn't really feel like writing songs for it, but then my friend introduced me to like certain, bunch of classic fandom names like Forest Rain and Acoustic Brony and a bunch of other, Living Tombstone, Aviators. And this was back in like 2012 or whatever. And then in 2013, I wrote my first song, and ever since then I've been self-taught in multiple different instruments, including mandolin and drums, and also just weird little instruments like banjo and melodica and whatever, that kind of thing. Yep.
Okay. Aether.
Ooh, my journey is long. Okay, so I started off, I was probably not even old enough to walk. But I would just bang on things, and my dad kind of picked up on that. I was like, wait a minute, and he started putting he was like, okay, let me put some buckets and stuff around and see what he does with those. Gave me a couple drumsticks, and I started hitting things, and I was making music. So like, okay, so they got me a drum set later on, and I started having fun with that. I didn't stay on drum set for too long because it was loud and they didn't like that. They wanted to try me on a different instrument. But I think around 10, I got really serious about piano. I'm self-taught with just about everything I play. But from 10 on, I just piano all the way, and then guitar I eventually got into way later on, probably freshman year of high school. And then middle and high school, I started learning in band how to play different percussion instruments overall. And I was a band nerd for a long time, all the way through. And then from then on, it wasn't until probably 2017-ish, I was about 18, that I actually found the fandom itself. And that's about when I started to find a lot of the music within the fandom, and it started to impact me in a lot of just amazing ways. And I kind of took that and was like, I want to make music based off of that. And so it inspired me, and I started recording, composing, and I would get this little 6-track recorder, and I just plug things into that. I just line in and start playing. And a lot of it was improv. I put it in front of me, I pressed play, and it just kept going. And it eventually turned into several songs, and here I am.
Okay. So here's the next question, and we'll start with. We'll start with Blue. What would you say is a favorite of yours that you've released so far or created?
Oh man, a favorite track that I've released, created. Let's see here. I'm honestly, just on my mind, one of my favorites is Maybe I'm Not, which is a collab I did with Koa a couple of years ago, I think, at this point. But it's a really heartfelt and catchy, because Koa's good at the catchy part and the heartfelt part, honestly. But I've always wanted to do a Limestone Pie fan song, because nobody does a Limestone Pie fan song. And I'm very proud, and people seem to have really resonated with them. So there you go.
Scarlet, your turn.
Ooh. So I want to say some of my new tracks, but that's from an album that's upcoming, and I haven't released those yet. So, let's say, I think my current favorite track that I've released recently, I think it was last year, would be Storm Chaser. And that was sort of a bit of an experimental epic orchestral track that I put together in a couple days just to try out some of my new fancy ethnic vocal samples. And it turned out pretty cool, because I just love those sort of wildly different ethnic vocal type samples, because it just sounds so eerie and mysterious, and it really added just the right flavor to the track. And I think at some point I'm gonna probably expand that into a full album or track, extended track at some point, because I love how that turned out.
Okay. Kao, your turn.
Shucks. Okay. So it's between two specific ones that I have, but I think the one I like a lot more is this song. It's gonna be a bit tricky to explain, but since I mentioned that there was that one I Can't Fix You song that kind of brought me into this whole thing and really started it off. I kind of turned that song, or the embodiment of that song, into a separate character for my channel, as kind of the quote unquote villain or whatever. And I kind of made a song based off of that. And I had to get a bit more experimental with that, because a lot of the songs I do, they're typically based off of an already existing medium. However, with this song, I had to really get experimental with it. I had to try to figure out the best way to portray this this weird relationship, like this weird character. So the song itself is called "Sounds a Little Something Like," and it's considered the theme song of the theme song of this idea that I had.
Okay.
And I'd say that one is probably my favorite.
Okay. Forever Free.
My personal favorite out of my collection is As the Thunder Rolls By. I don't know. I just kind of... It feels like a song that wrote itself, you know. There's a lot of... I have a few songs that are like that, but this one specifically, I felt like it was something that I needed to hear more than anything else. And I was also really, really proud of how it came about, because I use a lot of techniques I hadn't used. Just like one being that instead of recording drums first, I recorded drums last and timed the drums to the rest of the instruments, you know, instead of like timing the instruments to the drums. And it just made it sound more wholesome, more earthy and raw, you know. And everything about that song was just supposed to be uplifting and hopeful, and, you know, show that there are brighter days ahead, you know, and that you always have somebody to go with you, you know, through the hard times. And so, yeah, that one's my favorite, As the Thunder Rolls By.
And Whirlwind.
I would say so. There's I only have a selection to choose from, but my most proudest release of the solo stuff that I've produced is definitely my orchestral piece, Bright Green Eyes, which is a track dedicated to Applejack, because she's my favorite pony from the show, and it really resonated with me, and I was very proud that I was able to go in a direction in that kind of style and have people catch on to it, even though it was sort of kind of like a vent piece, so to speak. But I'm very proud of how that one turned out. Alternatively, if I wanted to select from, I guess, some more of my up-tempo stuff, I would say Skybound, my electronic track, released like almost 2 years ago now. And I'm kind of glad it's still held up, but I'm very proud of that one too. But on top of all that, I'm like, it sounds like a walking advertisement right now, but I'm really hopeful to release the new stuff, because it's stuff that's been, I've had ideas for like over the past like 4 or 5 years, and I hope to get them out at some point.
Okay. So we'll move on to a little more of a in-depth topic. What would you say that for you guys, what does your creative process look like for those that are curious out there? Let's go ahead and pick on Whirlwind again.
My creative process is kind of all over the place, because it's not like I sit down at my recording desk and I have a song idea. In fact, that's like the least amount of ideas, or the least, like the place I have the least amount of ideas pop up. Usually I'm walking all about, working my everyday life. Sometimes I could be at home and I can look up other, read fanfics or watch an episode of the show, and I find something that that sort of clicks with me. Or it could even be like in a music context, like, oh yeah, there's this cool drum pattern I have, and I would orchestrate it out in like a more musical context. It would be dead simple, but once you get the simple stuff out on paper in your DAW or whatever music software you have, then you start having this sense of direction. It's like, oh yeah, this could easily turn into a song. So, whether it be something that I can release, or it could be something that could just be on paper that I can return to, but that's generally how most of my writing process and recording processes go.
Okay. Let's go with KO next.
Shoot, you guys have a process? But honestly, usually a certain amount of steps that kind of go into the thing I want to do, whether it's like, coming up with lyrics and then, figuring out a chord progression and then figuring out how to make that chord progression sound interesting. There's a lot of relating steps to it, but I don't exactly have a particular order. Usually it will start out with, I want to make a song about this thing, and then I try to come up with a melody for it. Or a melody will just kind of like pop into my head first, and I was like, I want to use that, but what should I use it for? So it's kind of like a battle of trying to figure out which thing goes where. And once you get an idea that you really like, you go to your DAW of choice, you record instruments, you sing, you mix them all together, you make an enticing video if you make videos, and then boom, it's up there. And then you go on to the next one.
Okay. Let's do Forever Free next.
It can really depend. I have a formula, kind of, and the formula is concept. Formula is like concept, and then what is it? Okay, concept, chords, chords, lyrics, melody, and then lyrics. But sometimes, one comes like before the other, and so the process gets all mixed up, and you kind of just go with whatever happens. You can't always follow the same thing, and for me, that's absolutely how I am no exception to that. So, but my usual creative process is that the concept is there, and the concept can consist of anything that's like a hook, or perhaps a song idea, or a moral, something that you want to convey. Just whatever. It's the concept is what drives the song, I guess, to life. And then you have the chords, and I base the chords off of that feeling that I want, and then after that I create the lyrics and the melody, and they just kind of go along with that particular process. And a lot of the time I write the main melody first, just because that way the chords can be based around that particular part. Because sometimes you get a song idea in your head, and you're like, oh my gosh, I know people will love this, right? And then you write it down, and you record the chords according to that part. So I don't know. Everybody has a different one, but that's kind of mine, and mine gets messed up all the time.
Yeah, that sounds about right, honestly.
Yep.
Scarlet, we're going to pick on you next.
Oh, goodness. So my process varies wildly depending on what's going on at a particular moment. There's some times where I come up with, where I'm just doodling around on my keyboard, and I'm like, ooh, that's a really neat chord progression. I'm going to use that later. And then there's other times I'm doodling on like a different instrument or a guitar or a drums, and I'm coming up with a rhythm or a melody, and I'm like, this could work for something. And then there's other times I'm just purposefully sitting down thinking, okay, I'm going to write lyrics about this. How will this sound? And then that will lead me to the next step. And then other times it's like, oh, wait, I've got this little melody inside my head that just suddenly popped there, and I really like that riff or that idea, and then I'll go and write it down. Sometimes I have lost some ideas, and that is a frustrating experience. Because then you're either in an inconvenient location to put your idea down, and it's like, oh, come on, I have to go to work, I can't write this down right now, and then you just lose it completely. Or it's like in a dream, and you wake up and your mind is like, nope, that information's useless, and you're like, what? No, that was amazing, I want it. No,
it was all a dream.
And then other times I'll be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work on this particular idea. And then I'll come back to that idea later after I take a break from it or get stuck on it. And then I'll be like, scratching my head like, what was I doing with this? Where was I going with this? I don't know what to do with this at the moment. And it's just a mix of all these different elements and ideas, and sometimes it works its way into a song, and other times it's just like, I'm gonna have to come back to that a couple of years from now.
Okay. Aetherlight, have I gotten to you yet?
No. So, I actually have quite, I want to say a unique, I really don't know what word to use for this. I have a really bizarre way of making music. So, I'll combine concepts. The first concept I'll combine is writing a story. I'll treat it like I'm writing a story, and I'll start with an idea. But then I'll combine acting techniques like stepping into character, sort of, or certain methods to get into or into that character or place mentally. And then that's when I combine the idea with the music making, and that's when I just go at it. I'll start with a melody, mainly, because then it's like a skeletal structure for me. I can do anything with that melody from there. And then oddly enough, I'll jump to a lot of splicing techniques. I'll let it play, and then I'll start recording something and stop it, and then I'll let it play and then record on a different track, and keep doing that over and over until I've got something going. The only time that there was an exception where I did something way different from that was my song Dreams, which, funny that you were talking about that, Scarlet, because my song Dreams is very much based on a dream that I had. I just woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I'm going to write this. And I vividly had the dream in my head. So I just started doing, like, just playing, and then it just turned into something.
I wish that would happen to me more.
Very emotion based, heavily with my stuff.
And Blue.
Makes sense.
Alrighty. Yeah, so there's a lot, you can kind of glean some similarities between all our styles. I think most of us, we start with a concept or an idea, something that we want to, communicate. I try and make sure that, especially under my BlueBrony alias, that all of my concepts tie back to Pony, either directly or even just indirectly. And from there, once I have a concept, then sometimes I start with lyrics because I'm writing a poem because I feel sad, or sometimes I start with piano because piano is my first instrument, so I just start doodling and go from there. And sometimes I'm like, I come up with a lick, a hook, something that is kind of a central, oh yeah, this is the shiny moment of the song, now I build the rest of the song around it. I should say, well, I don't think I should say, but I'm going to say, Scarlet and I are going to be at HarmonyCon, and we may or may not be doing a panel on this exact thing. Just a rumor. It's not confirmed or public or anything yet.
Subtle, nice.
So, for those of you that may or may not be going to HarmonyCon, you should definitely drop by and say hi to Blue, Scarlet, Forever Free, Whirlwind, and myself. So,
yeah,
we'll all be there.
Yeah.
I'll be up on a stage at one point. Oh my
Whoa!
god. Nobody wants to see that. Anyways, next question. So I know some of you have done lots of collabs. I'm thinking mainly Goonies. Got just so many collabs. For those of you that have done collabs, who is your favorite to collab with? And for those of you that have not done any collabs yet, who would you like to collab with? And it doesn't need to be realistic. It can be pipe dreams as long as it's somebody within the fandom. I'm just going to leave the floor open for that one. So whoever speaks first.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Let's see here. In terms of collaborations, It's not exactly pony related, but every once in a while I'll do like a video based on Brawlhalla, which is this just like platform fighting game on Steam. And there was this YouTuber that I liked a lot that did Brawlhalla videos of kind of like parodies of that sort of thing. And I was like, it'd be cool to do something with him someday. And then eventually I got the chance to, and then I got to make a song about it with him featured in it, which I was very thankful for. And that was really cool. Now, as for pony-related content that I would love to collaborate with someone someday, I don't know if the Living Tombstone still counts, but
I've as awesome as that would be to see him collabing with newer creators or creators that are like not as like big as say Silverhound. I don't know if he really counts anymore. He seems to be branching out into just gaming in general.
Yeah. I mean, heck, I'd still take it either way. But in terms of
Touché.
pony, in terms of someone pony related, I'd want to collaborate with. Well, of course, I have friends that are very talented at stuff they do. I'm gonna throw a couple shout outs like Acrylic Shine, Francis, SFM Corner. They both do some really, really good stuff. And it would be cool to collaborate with, someone bigger eventually to, help, get word out there and hopefully make something that's up to standard with, a lot of the stuff, a lot more people that are talented than me can do. And, that's about it on my end.
Okay. So who wants to go next?
I'll go. Oh. Rock, paper, scissors.
Must fight to the death now.
Death battle.
We'll go with Aether. It looked like Aether spoke first, so we'll go with Aether.
Well, I've only actually really done, I think, a collab with one person so far, but and it was a lot of fun, and that was with Bree. A lot of people know him now as Zephic. But one person I'd like to try and collaborate with at some point is like, and it's probably unrealistic, but Prince Whatever would be. I feel like it'd be a lot of fun, or heck, even Goonie here would be a lot of fun.
Did you hear that, Goonie?
One day, maybe, would be a lot of fun, honestly.
Okay, your turn, Scarlet.
Well, me and Blue have collaborated on some stuff. Specifically, our Songs from Scratch panel from last year's HarmonyCon. And it's been fun doing that with him, and I will gladly continue to do it. But as far as like pipe dream sort of collabs, this one's way out there. I would definitely like to do something with Black Griffin at some point, because I'd say he was my main inspiration joining the pony fandom. But then also, like Aether said, Prince Whatever would be great too. And then, I'd also like to do something with Forever Free at some point too.
I feel like Prince Whatever is not going to be as hard as you guys think it is, because like he seems like he's really approachable. Black Griffin, on the other hand, may be a little more difficult because he's also celebrity.
Yeah, Black Griffin is a little more on the mainstream side than I guess some others probably.
But
True.
I've seen PW collab with all kinds of people, so I feel like it's more of just a question of approaching him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because you want to collaborate with these people, but at the same time you don't want to, I guess, make a fool out of yourself. And
Or pester them, or
I have 2 subscribers. Can we collaborate? Put hoods together.
Yeah, I get that one. It's one of those like you gotta get your name out there and like have something to show for it. I feel like the second one's more important though, because like there's some really good musicians out there that like you're like, oh, they're big in the fandom, and you go look at them and they've got like 30 subscribers. Like Black and Blue, last time I looked, had only recently gotten to 1,000 subscribers, but like,
oh wow,
he has got some really awesome stuff.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
this is actually something that I pride myself on in doing lots of different kinds of collaborations, and it's incredible seeing how few subscribers some really talented people have. Like
It is a damn shame.
I was always so sad that this guy who went by Crazy Oatmeal back in the day, he was a fandom musician, only did a few things, but his content was actually pretty darn good. He's a freaking good guitarist. He could chart drums really well. He could program drums really well. And he was a fairly decent vocalist, and he wrote parodies and wrote original songs. And he just, in general, was a really talented guy. And he like never made it past like what, 3? I don't even remember. I don't remember the number. It wasn't 1,000. I know that. But like, yeah, the dude, he just never. It's so sad to see that kind of, number keep somebody from actually progressing, because people look at that number and say, oh, they haven't made it big yet because their content isn't good enough. But no, it's not the case. Most of the time it's just because they haven't been noticed, and haven't been given that boost that they need.
That's why
go ahead.
That's why, as a content creator, I always look at the quality of the stuff that they're putting out before I look at the sub count, because the sub count could be a lie.
For sure.
The cake is a lie.
Yeah. I definitely had a few of those boosts in my early days in the fandom. For example, I piggybacked a little bit off of Feather and off of Aviators. And nice. Because I was able to get my name out there and get noticed by them, and they liked my stuff. And so that's how I got noticed. And people like that were very approachable and very, workable. And Prince Whatever is very much the same way. I just never approached him until like I met him at a con or whatever. And so we've done probably a few different collabs at this point. And at this point we're just helping each other out. He has twice my sub count, but still at this point neither of us cares. We're just both, we're chilling.
Music horses doing music things.
Exactly. That's what we do. That's what we do. Anyways, but yeah, I pride myself also on being probably the most collaborated Brony musician out there.
Yeah, I've seen your name on everything.
I used to keep track, but the list went in almost to the 200s. So I'm like, I'm just done. I'm just done counting it.
You wanna add one more?
I always want to add one more, but yeah. So it's just, you gotta, if you ever, like, to those who get their name out there and get their, get noticed and eventually get a decent amount of subs, be open to collaborations. Do look at people's content, not their subscriber count. And because, like, people like Black and Blue really deserve more attention. His stuff is freaking quality. It's like actual legit, nearly radio worthy. It's so good.
It really is, though.
Anyway, I don't understand why his sub count is so low. Same with Melody Brony. Quality stuff.
There's a lot of musicians. Like, I had a big example that I saw last HarmonyCon, actually, is I was there for the what was it, British Rodeo plus One American, and Biscuit got on stage, and he looked like a metalhead, but I was not prepared for how good he was. Holy crap, that was just
freaking epic.
It was so much that I was not ready for, but it was so good. I already knew Black and Blue was good, but Biscuit just out of left field. Never heard of him, and he just blew it away. But yeah,
to be fair, Biscuit is fairly new, so.
And that's a really good point. We have so our last podcast was about the fandom, whether or not it was dead, and I had somebody who had a bit of an in on the musical side. I was noting that was there are lots and lots of new musicians popping up all the time, but it's cases Aetherlight and Scarlet were they're really small channels. I don't remember how big KO's was, but all of them, like all the new guys, they're like showing up, and like there's these people that they see as unapproachable because of how long they've been in the fandom, how many people they know. Subscriber counts are a barrier, so yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of musicians out there that just don't see the light of day, and it's sad, which is part of the reason this exists.
So sad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's tricky because even though they don't exactly have the hugest amount of subscribers, like compared to the amount that you have, like these people can seem like super intimidating. They seem like you can feel like you're going up to like Beyonce or someone, like trying to ask about collaborations and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I
If you're
so
gonna collab with Beyonce, you're gonna be dropping like millions of dollars.
I have cash. Ooh.
I mean, I spoke with PW at one point for a possibility of commissioning him for music, and he said $300, and that definitely felt like millions at the time. I'm actually starting to realize that seems to be a fairly normal price, because
It is a fairly normal price.
yeah, the one that I did with Blue, because I've actually had a commission from Blue and Goonie both. The one I did with Blue, it ended up paying out at $400 total for the 3 different people that were involved with it. But yeah, I've noticed that for the ones that do commissions, the price seemed. We're all adults here, okay? But the price point seems to be something that stops a lot of people from commissioning musicians. But like, there are a lot of musicians out there that are like, "Yes, please commission me."
Yep.
I'm only trial running it right now. I opened commissions back in November, December, and I'm still working on finishing them right now. And because I'm not very reliable, so I'm trial running them to see if I can actually hold up my end of the bargain.
I mean, you did a really good job with mine. You held up your end of the bargain,
Yours
and
was
then
so
some.
easy though. Yours was so easy though. You wanted it to sound like a Johnny Cash song, and I was like, okay, I can do that. Yeah, that's up my alley. Where
right now with drums, I haven't really got my foot in the door to start charging people, unless if it's like non-fandom stuff. Because the thing about live drums is that you have to be really on point, and the same can be said with vocals too. But vocals are a little less forgiving. But I know it's like when I record drums for like Forest Rain, for example, she's very easy to work with. But then it's like, then you get into then it's like for other artists you record drums for, it's like they don't have the right parts or stuff like that. And then I sort of factor in like, well, if I wanted to charge someone, like what's my worth? And I really haven't fell through with that yet because I haven't found a creative workflow to make it efficient. But I would definitely be head over heels to collab with someone if they're down to do live drums. Sometimes I reach out more often than less. I reach out for people as like, hey, you want to have drums on a track?
being a drummer can be tricky, especially if you're working with a bunch of fandom people who work for who don't pay you normally. I mean, sometimes you can get paid, but like recently, we did a track for an upcoming thing at HarmonyCon, and I was so critical. I was very, very critical because I was like, okay, can you make this part just a little bit more like that, and then this part a little bit more like that? And Whirlwind, poor Whirlwind, I made him re-record just at least once. So it's just, but
Yeah.
it turned out awesome in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like going from, just making music with your friends to like starting to charge for making music is always a tricky thing, a tricky hurdle to jump over. I know starting out, like way back in 2017, 17 or 18. The way I started doing commissions was I was on MLP forums, and I just put a thing out there saying, hey, I'll write you a 1-minute song if you give a little sketch of my OC. And so, not doing a monetary value, just like basically trading art for music was kind of how I got started and got more comfortable with, okay, this is how I can be a commissioner. And then, like, slowly over time, I actually started charging money and becoming more comfortable with raising my prices as I became more confident in my abilities. And it's one of those things where you just kind of journey and you feel out. And to this day, if I'm working with a musician and we're going to collab together, I'm not going to ask for money for that because we're all part of the same fandom, and I like to think of this fandom as a community. It's not a
Yeah, if you charge for collabs, it's going to make it really rough for people to try and want to collab with you because, but money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a few
Money is a
people
scary
who've done
factor.
that. It's not my favorite thing. Not my favorite thing if people charge for collaborating. I understand, charging if they want you to make a song or make an entire instrumental, based on a song or whatever. But like if it's a collaboration where you're both participating in a project that you both want to do, then I have a problem with that.
Yeah, that feels like it would be very gatekeepy at that point, because if you don't have the money to do something like that, then you got to go elsewhere. And
Right.
I'd imagine it's a lot more fun to be able to just be like, hey, we both do music. Let's do a thing together.
Hey,
Right.
But I guess
I do things, you do things. Let's make music together.
So
I guess to answer the question the Nameless one threw out earlier, since I guess we all got sidetracked. I guess a dream collab for me, I don't know who to throw for a dream collab, because I've done all the stuff I wanted to do in studio or on stage. I mean, there'll always be, like, last year I performed with DB Pony for the first time, and I remember listening to DB in high school. I was like, it's been that long. And so that was kind of a cool moment. I've recorded drums for some of my other favorite fandom musicians over the years, both or some that may have gone out like well past the fandom, like Isenboth is one example. But I guess if there's one dream collab, and I'm shooting for the moon with this because I don't even know if this person exists anymore, but you cannot deny that So Great and Powerful was amazing. And it could, if there was a scenario like, oh yeah, So Great and Powerful does exist and they still make music, it would be insane to actually have a collab. But I mean, you barely hear from SCAP, so don't get any hopes up.
To be fair, he did say dream collab, so it doesn't
Yeah.
exactly have to be realistic. Just more so, I really want to.
yeah, the only parameter was as long as it's in the fandom still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that respect, then I guess I really want to work on a track with Biscuit, just because I have a lot of metal material and ideas that I can't decide if I want to release it out on my own. But Biscuit's one of the only people that I can sort of, like, when it comes to really heavy and aggressive distorted guitars, I think Biscuit's like the only name that comes to mind, at least in where how fandom musicians are right now. There's also another selection of other producers. I think Sean Apocalypse is another one. Not sure if you're familiar with that name, but they're also one that I would like to throw out some metal ideas with. But I've sent out drums to Prince Whatever, like some dating like 3 years ago, and they haven't seen the light of day yet. But maybe
I know what
maybe
you're
they
talking
will.
about. It's
Yeah.
it's gonna happen eventually, I promise.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other struggle.
I'm not discouraged or anything. I mean, as long as I have fun doing it, I have fun doing it. If it doesn't get released, then so be it.
There you go.
My dream collab. I used to say that it was Replacer, but I've got to work with him twice at this point, and so his
Damn.
Replacer was, he was a huge name back in the day, and like he was always my favorite because his style was so unique and his, messages were so uniquely conveyed, and he always used, just it was always a piano or a guitar or a synthesizer focus or whatever, and they were all just so cool, and I just liked his style. And so that used to be my dream collab. Nowadays, I don't know. Rush. That would be my dream collab, but no.
Okay, well, if you're talking like non-Brony collabs or like dream collaborations,
Oh dear, here we go.
I would love to do a collab with Spencer Sotelo of Periphery.
So
Okay.
I think unless Blue, did you get a chance to go?
Oh yeah, I was supposed to say my dream collab.
Yeah.
Let's hear. One is Replacer, which is work in progress. TM maybe ? There is, and then Loop Hoof, because Loop Hoof makes me cry, and Negative Space. He is also ones that makes me cry sometimes.
Okay. So, next question I have. So I know the artists and writers have been struggling a lot with certain things that have been coming out on the internet, AI. What about you guys as musicians? Have you had is there anything causing a lot of struggles for y'all other than, general economy?
I think I'll get my foot in the door or my hoof in the door first and just say that I'm not really too bothered by it from the perspective of a drummer, because I may have brought it up earlier, but programming drums is very common for like the bedroom producer nowadays, but that's a whole entire different side of like producing besides AI. And I just kind of become obliged to it, and I kind of rode with it, and I do my own thing. But with AI, it's a little bit different, because there's a lot of scenarios where it's like, yeah, you can generate something in like a matter of seconds and you have like a full song. Is that really art though? And the whole art or non-art debate has been debated for many, many years, and there really isn't any answer except for the eye of the beholder. But you gotta, it leaves me scratching my head when you have someone who can like claim something like, oh, I did this and I did it better, or so to speak, and I use AI to use it, and it's like,
But did you really,
okay, yeah,
though?
fine, but did you really like set the bar high to get yourself like a lot higher? Like there's so much oversaturation with AI and how it's taken off. And clearly, really, it's like if that's what everyone else wants to listen to, then that's not really a problem that I have. That's a problem with like how the listeners. But I mean, that's just kind of my whole take on the AI thing.
I'm gonna steal this joke from one of my siblings, but I put in my McDonald's order, so I'm a chef now.
So it's the question whether or not we have problems with like AI, or is it?
It's just kind of,
or is it like
in general of AI being like one of the big ones for writers and artists, but like if there's things that are making things more difficult nowadays for musicians other than the general economy.
Well, I mean, there's the oversaturation of repeating topics and repeating chords, chord progressions, but like it's not so much of a problem for like copyright issues. It's just more like how can I make my song feel more original? Because this chord progression is already in that song, and so my song will be uninteresting, and for me that's a big part of why I produce music, because I actually make a living off of my stuff. So my stuff kind of has to sometimes go, get popular for me. And so I guess the general, especially when it comes to like pop and rock and that kind of thing, overusing chord progressions and writing about the same themes as other songs is hard to avoid. It is very, very hard to avoid, and it's getting harder to avoid when as long as new songs keep being made. And it's that, but in that sense, it also does make it really special when somebody's able to find a unique take on a certain topic, which is like why Chant of Mortality got so popular, and also why songs that are about immortality now in the fandom are not as popular. So it's just the ideas are getting taken, but I think it's really cool either way that when a song does find a unique take on certain topics, it makes it really, really special, and it's cool to see that still happening.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. You could take what you will from that.
So, anybody else want to weigh in, or are we moving on to the next question?
You can go first.
Okay. I think for me, the biggest challenge that I face is consistency. I tend to go in these crazy productive bursts and then burn myself out and have to take a long gap before I can tackle my next projects. And that's something I'm working through, and it's really difficult to find that perfect balance, because you're like, I feel like I should be doing more because I'm not doing enough, and people aren't, and I'm not meeting expectations that I've set for myself. But then at the same time, if you set your expectations too unrealistic, you just fizzle and feel like a failure, and it's like, this is really hard. How do you balance that? And that's something that I struggle with.
It's an understandable one. Aether, you had something to say?
Yes. It's very close to that for me as well. Most of it is keeping a creative drive. So because of the fact that I spend so much energy into each piece I make, and I put my heart and soul into every single thing I put out and make, I'll burn out from putting too much energy into each thing, and I won't regulate myself enough or balance things out enough, or balance music versus life stuff, such as work, relationship, whatever else is going on in life, anything really, versus making time for making music. So that's most of it is time as well. That's a big one. But those are kind of areas I struggle.
Mm-hmm.
If I could chime in a bit, you reminded me of something actually. Sometimes the big struggle is working so hard on a project and feeling like you're getting nothing in return from it.
Oh god, yes.
I can relate to that too.
That is, I think that is just like a creator-wide. Like, it doesn't matter what you create. Any creator, you'll spend like 800 hours making this thing, and you put it up there, and nobody wants to see it. But the 2-minute shit post that goes up does all the numbers.
Yep.
Yeah. There's some things that feel like that, but it's I don't know. I'm glad Who Knows got popular. I put a lot of effort into that one, so I'm glad it got popular. But I did not put a lot of effort into Chant of Mortality, so I did not expect that. So it's just like, why? So,
I'm gonna add another example into that. So I've made a few music videos here and there of my own songs, as a musician does, and I hope they're gonna get super popular. You hope, this is gonna blow up because it's about a cool topic or whatever, and then you get at most maybe a few hundred views, but then the Minecraft music video you made when you were 13 years old 6 years ago ended up getting 260,000 views. So you're just kind of at that point, you just let the YouTube gods dictate how your video does.
why does it work like that? Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But bringing back to AI, I do have some comments.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am involved in a server that is run by Luckrock, owned by Luckrock. And I consider Luckrock to be Mr. Brony music because he listens to literally everything and he catalogs literally everything that comes out in the fandom. So every, once a week we have a music night where we listen to all the new Brony music that came out on YouTube in the past week. And so, because of that, since I've been participating in that, I've been able to see a lot more than what people normally see. And what I found is that in terms of AI, I don't see a lot of like pure AI music, as in like putting in a prompt and then a song comes out.
For now.
And that's mostly because it just isn't good, and like there's no. But what I do see a lot of is AI voices.
Yeah.
Fluttershy sings, "Sweet Home Alabama" or something.
I'm actually going to take this opportunity to throw out a plug for the Pony Voice Project. It's a voice actor project that we have available. I will have a pinned comment with the link for that. And that is because voice actors are something that was thought to be in very low numbers and hard to find and difficult to work with, but we've found a bunch that are willing to work in some cases for free. So,
absolutely. 100% human voices are way better than AI voices. Also, the people who post these songs of AI voices singing whatever are 95% of them are low effort slop. And the sad thing is that even in that case, they still make up around, I'd say right now, a third of all pony music that is released is that kind of low effort AI cover type stuff. And so whenever an AI cover comes up, we usually pretty quickly skip it.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Oh, also, Ali wanted to correct you. It's called the Pony Voice Index.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We know what we know what I meant. The link's going to be in a pinned comment anyways.
Okay.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I do have one counter example. There has been one pony artist that actually uses AI and uses it in a transformative way, and that is BGM. I know, hard to look up, but BGM's music and output is very high quality for what they're working with, and they do a lot, and they use AI voices, but like it's them singing.
We should see if we get them on a creator hub, hook them up with some actual voice actors.
He's the one that did the Blonde Spooky Bone Stealer. It's actually a really catchy song. You will be singing it if you hear it.
They did the rarity vocals to Spare Me by Prince Whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
That's true, yes.
I'm going to move this forward a little more. Before we're about to get into the audience questions. Before we do, though, for those musicians here, what is your biggest piece of advice to those that would want to be jumping into music in the fandom as a creator? Like, what is your biggest piece of advice to them?
Just have fun and keep doing it. That's about it. That's all you need to do.
Well, I'm talking mainly like the ones that are like, I want to do it, but I haven't started yet.
Oh, okay, so advice for people that want to start.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood there. I'll need a minute on that one.
Don't be afraid to sound bad. It's going to happen because normally you start out with stuff that's super cheap, and it's okay. Just create stuff, start making stuff, get your stuff out there, and show people what kind of talents you have. Go ham on what you on your genre, on whatever music you like to make. Don't always make music that everybody else wants to hear. Make the kind of music you want to make, and don't let people discourage you, and also don't let it discourage you if you don't get noticed right away. You just got to give it time and be patient
and persistent.
I'm gonna second that about discouraging. Is don't be discouraged on people who tell you that you have to do this or you have to do that, and then you'll see a reward out of it or an outcome out of it. Be what's the word? Have joy to the art that you create, and correct me if I'm wrong. This is a Michelangelo quote, but Michelangelo said, "The true work of art is but a shadow of perfection." In that case, we're not striving to be the greatest artists that we can be. We're here to express our own creativity, and whether it's on pen and paper, if it's a picture, whether it's through sound waves, be joyful at the stuff that you create and keep going, even if you're struggling, and you'll love it.
I have
guess
something
that's-
to add on as well.
Go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Not all instruments are the expensive stuff. Literally anything can be an instrument. If you're wanting to start creating and make music with stuff, you don't need a piano to do it. You don't need a guitar to do it. You don't need anything super expensive. You could start with the most basic of things. You could grab probably an empty coffee container from across the room or something and start banging on it with some sticks and turn it into something.
I actually think that we have Golly Forever sent us some pictures for the slideshow, and by the looks of it, he's using a gutted pony toy to use for music. So
Clever.
The remains of Rainbow Dash speaks to my soul.
Also,
I was just gonna say that the thing that sounds like clapping in the back of who knows, in the background, it's actually just a couple of rocks. So you just don't. It doesn't always have to be instruments. Anything can be an instrument.
Yes.
Also,
sound design. Go ahead.
Also, I wanted to add another note to words of advice. I mentioned don't be discouraged, but one thing I've noticed about the Brony community is they've been nothing but encouraging people to be more creative. And with the music community, there's lots of examples of that. There's lots of micro communities like Ponies at Dawn, or what BlueBrony mentioned about the Brony music listening. There are other musicians that are willing to help you and collab with you, and it just brings a healthy mindset to make your expand your musical endeavors. So always try and get your foot in the door with other people.
This is where I squeeze in the plug for the creator hub that I run.
Yes,
it is a expansive. It's for all creators of all types. We even have people that run conventions there, and
nice.
All you got to do is you got to keep your nose clean and create pony stuff, and that's all you need. Doesn't matter how small you are, how big you are, as long as you create pony stuff, and we can't, you don't have a rap sheet, then we're good. We're there for creators to be able to connect with each other, to be able to collab easier, to be able to contact people. Everybody that's on this podcast right now is actually from there. That's where I put out the call for that. 2 of them I had to poke in private, but the rest of them, they're just musicians that happen to be on there when I put out the call.
Join us.
KO's there very often. He likes to talk to people.
I got a lot of friends, dear.
But yeah, Anybody else have anything they want to add before we move to audience questions?
One of us. One
I'll
of us.
offer some practical advice. You know, people have been talking good about the motivation that you need when you're getting started, because when you start, you suck. That's just a rule, but you will get better. But from a practical standpoint, if you play an instrument, you can start with that and a USB microphone and Audacity, which is a free music recording or audio recording software. I started with Audacity and a Blue Yeti microphone. The other thing, though, is if you want to be more like getting into creating music with the computer, especially electronic type stuff, you're going to need a digital audio workstation or a DAW. DAW. And there are lots of videos out there that you can look up all the different DAWs out there and see their strengths and weaknesses. And honestly, as long as it isn't Pro Tools, they're all good.
I
Pro Tools is the Adobe of DAWs.
There's
Although
a bunch
I
of
did
different
start
ones out
with
there that
that.
are still free. Like I think GarageBand, and then I think Reaper,
And Cakewalk.
but
Cakewalk.
yeah, and Cakewalk, and Prince, whatever, still to this day uses Reaper. So
I use Reaper.
I use Studio One.
Okay, so
I'm
You can-
an expensive guy though. I use Ableton.
You can use FL as well. Just don't get too attached to your projects.
Oh my god.
Crash.
Oh man.
okay, so anything else, or are we good to start on commenter questions?
I'd say it's commenter time.
Okay, so I actually do have one from a patron, or whatever. It's specifically, this is from Ice Crystal for Blue. What software do you use to play your guitar?
Right. So I actually just mentioned it. My guitar is just basically a fancy MIDI controller, and so all the sounds come from my DAW, which is PreSonus Studio One. And yeah, that guitar is an Alesis, Alesis, wireless Vortex 2. It's like the only one that isn't $1,000. So yeah, that's why I like it.
Okay. Second question, same person for Blue. Do you have any fancy hardware for it, like a sound card or audio interface?
So I do use an audio interface, but that's mostly for recording vocals and doing live shows type stuff. Honestly, like the guitar just has a USB dongle that I plug into my computer, and then it just plays the sounds through the software on my computer. So, if you only wanted to do that, you just have the guitar and you have the software, and boom.
Okay. And the last question for you, Blue, from Ice is the hardware necessary?
Absolutely not. Hardware is optional. Unless if you want to record good vocals, then yeah, you need an audio interface. That being said, like I said, I started with a USB microphone, which is a good entry point that doesn't require an audio interface. But if you want one that can handle louder sounds and not peak and stuff like that, then yeah, you'll have to invest a little bit, but it doesn't take much.
Okay. Goonie, this is also from Ice Crystal. Which of the chants did you most enjoy making? So, like, you personally.
I had a lot of fun writing. It depends, because I have different answers for different parts. I had a lot of fun writing Chant of Selflessness, because it was just like it didn't follow the patterns of the other ones that well, and it told more of a story than anything else. Whereas my favorite one to record was definitely Chant of Mirth. because it just came with that warm, feeling, and it just, once it was done, I felt like I had found, heaven. It sounded like that, just once you listen to that song, it has that ethereal tone to it. And I really like Chant of Benevolence because it was my favorite one to collaborate on. Chi-Chi was wonderful to work with, and it turned out to be the highest quality sounding chant.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is for the group. Really curious if anyone here has heard of microtonal / Zen harmonic music, which is a field of music super fascinating to me. And this is from user -1.
I think Jacob Collier is involved in that. I think that's the same thing, is it? Unless I'm wrong.
I don't know anything about this.
I believe what it is you go between, it involves using harmonies and notes that are between the actual notes on certain. Oh, if I might
imagine there's a note between
talking
a
out my
white key and a
butt.
black key.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine there's a note between a white key and a black key.
Sounds like
exactly.
another
And I
like
think
440 versus 432 debate.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit more experimental in that regard.
And I think Jacob Collier was one of the ones who experimented with it. So if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a cool concept that is way over my head.
I might dabble with it someday, but I would definitely need some time to fine tune it, so to speak.
Right.
Dude, that sounds like something I could definitely. I don't think I've played with it unless you count doing little bends on the. You know how some keyboards have a little bending bar that can change the tone a little bit. Unless you count that.
Yeah, pitch shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably like a way to approach it. So
yeah, it's similar. Yeah.
So the next question from the SFM corner, I think we kind of touched on this, but how many subscribers would be considered good for a collab to boost someone?
So
if they have more subscribers than you, then it's good for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of about what I was thinking as well, especially if they're more active subscribers, because there's some channels out there that don't have active subscribers, but they have like bloated numbers, myself being one of those. But yeah. I think with subscribers counts, it's like, it's weird, especially nowadays. So I think that's kind of a difficult one to actually answer, other than if they're bigger than you, that's better for you.
Yeah, because it's hard you gotta sort of sometimes, I don't know. There are some people that are hard to approach, but it really depends on if you really want to get more subscribers, just collaborate with more people, because the reason I say this is because not everybody has the same subscribers as everybody else. Some people, like Prince Whatever, probably I'm gonna say probably half of my subscribers are subscribed to him, or maybe even 2/3 or 3/4, and then but a bunch of his subscribers are we don't share the same people, and so it doesn't matter sometimes if somebody has more, way more than you, if they have subscribers that and your genre is different than theirs, they are bound to have different people subscribed to them. And when you do a collaboration, it is beneficial for both of you, because then you both get more subscribers for it, because you're sharing, because those people who didn't know about each other's channels, that is where you find out about them. That is where they find out about you. Yes. Anyways, you get it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Next question from Ali. Yes, the Ali that helped set this up. of the musicians in the podcast, who does commissions? How do your commissions work?
I do
but
commissions.
not for music.
I do commissions for music, but I only have 3 slots, and they're all taken up right now, so you'll have to wait.
Have you
I take
raised the
commission-
price?
Oh, I've raised my prices quite a bit
Okay.
since last time. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a bit, way up
Stakes have
there.
gone higher.
Anyway, Blue, your turn.
Yeah, so I do take commissions, and usually, I don't have a sign up list. It's more like a case by case basis, and usually what I do is I'll let you know about what my availability is at the time, because that's usually where my limitation is I'd love to, but I'm too busy this month, that kind of thing. And usually I price by per minute of finished audio. It kind of depends on your project, but if you're interested, just kind of reach out to me on whatever platform that we are mutuals on, or in that nature, and I can give you some more details.
Okay. Anybody else? We go into the next question.
I'm still learning how to balance commissions in general. So it would also be on a case by case basis, because I want to do commissions, but I also need to balance everything else that I got going on in life and other projects and stuff. So just shoot me a message if you're interested.
I'm kind of the same with that, but it's more so of I'm kind of open for collaborations. Although, again, it's timing, what's going on. But if I'm free, or depending on the scenario, if I'm free and if you send me something that is pretty comfortable to work with, and I would definitely be down, more than down.
Okay. And this next one is from Sierra Henneberry. It's not so much of a question. Well, it is a question, but it's not pertaining to music in particular. Somebody asked, is apparently addressed me with the question. I am curious about the MLP community and wondering if it's never too late to get involved with it, even if not as big anymore, and how can I be involved? So this was from Sierra Henneberry. Absolutely. I wouldn't even say that it's not as big as it used to be. People just don't. You got to look for things, and honestly, there is such an enormous amount of people coming in with all of the new generation stuff, as well as just new creators that are hey, I want to get my stuff out there. So if you ever want to join the community, do it. It's just that simple.
Join the herd, you will see.
Find a community. If you want to start creating, figure out what you want to make and jump feet first. That's how I got started as both a writer and a YouTuber. Basically, I was you know what? I want to do this thing. And I took the plunge, and now I run multiple communities. I run my own YouTube channel. I am a community guest at HarmonyCon. I have met all of these amazing creators, including these guys. It's something that you just kind of end up having to, if you're going to do it, then do it. Otherwise, you'll just keep coming up with excuses on why you won't.
Pink actually has a song about that. Trustfall.
That's pretty. Yeah. No notes. Next question is from Cupute. I guess with that in the equation, this is a question, by the way. What are the struggles you face when it comes to finding vocalists for songs you work on, and specifically character voices or characters singing in said song? So I think this is kind of in reference to the AI bit we had discussed earlier.
It's really. Is this for anybody?
Yes.
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay. Well, finding different voices if you're like looking for character voices, can be really tough, and a lot of people. I mean, I don't really have a problem if you're doing character voices, but like if you're trying to do voices of creators who would just normally work with you for free as long as you wait and are patient with them, then you know you just should wait. You should just try and work with those creators in general, and like especially for like vocalists who really put their heart and effort into how they sound. And a challenge that I definitely have when it comes to waiting on different vocalists, whether they're in character or out of character, is just the waiting part. And it's sometimes they're communicative and sometimes they're not. And sometimes you gotta wait quite a while until you get a part. But honestly, it's worth the friendship. It's worth the friendship if you just wait and you make sure that you're being patient with your fellow creator. Whereas you could take the easy route and use AI instead to simulate their voice or simulate a character's voice or whatever, and not get a fun collaboration out of it, and also possibly risk your chances of working with that person ever again. So, in my eyes, it's worth it more to have patience, and really, because songs like Who Knows wouldn't have happened if I was not patient with certain vocalists, because the only reason I had the instrumental done by 2018 or 2017 or something like that, and it came out quite a while after, and it was because I had to wait for vocals, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I waited on who I'd asked, rather than asking somebody else because somebody was taking too long. And just, it was worth it in the end, because that way I got a stellar song and a stellar cast on the song. So and the wait was well worth it. And that song has it has my most Spotify plays and most everything plays. DistroKid tells me that it's made me the most money out of all my songs. So yeah.
Whoa. No.
DistroKid.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
I will. So it's a little bit of a tricky thing, since I don't typically do songs on certain characters. The one time I did, I just did the voice for it because it was a GLaDOS song, and I'm able to process my voice to kind of mimic the same style. Now, I am actually in that predicament myself at the moment. I'm currently working on a Titanfall song at the moment, and I want to have BT, like this character from the game, this big robot guy, do a few lines in the song as well. So my options are either use AI for it, or try to find someone that can decently, replicate his voice, and then, me being able to process it into like that same voice. So I do want to try to get someone if possible, but I have no clue where to start, or like where to actually look for someone that can do a decent impression of this, a lot more of a niche character.
If I could kind of like weigh in with like a bit of advice, is like start looking at places like the Stupendium, Dan Bull, where they have people that they collab with. You might be able to find some people that do video game voiceover music that might be able to help you with that. You're gonna try approaching them.
Yeah, you said Stupendium and Dan Bull?
Yeah, those two are pretty decent music artists that I enjoy. I see.
I've heard their stuff; they're really good.
If you look at some of
actually became a patron of mine at one point.
It was so weird to see too.
I know, it was bizarre.
But yeah, they collab with a bunch of people as well. So looking into that, you may be able to find somebody that you could try contacting.
Gotcha. Okay.
I also want to weigh in with something that I heard. Well, I think it was while I was talking with Blue and Ethan Tovis over one of the collabs dealing with the voice actor that we were using for the commission that I had paid all three of them for. And apparently there are some issues with people where they will only do one take, I think is what it was.
That is an issue.
Yeah, definitely. It's, different. When you're dealing with people, you're dealing with people. And so people come in all sorts of quirks. And so sometimes you just have to learn how to work with limitations. Sometimes it involves asking for re-records or just doing the best you can. But that's kind of the joy of working with other people too.
I suffer from this too. I used to just record one takes. Now I've been tracking multiple takes, doing punch-ins. So usually it's like, well, now I'm like tempted to just like anytime I send drums out to someone, I'm tempted to send like, okay, here's like a rough draft on this recording, and here's this recording. You want to work with X amount of recordings, or I can send you both. It just take a little bit of time to send out both the multis for that, but
As
I'm down to
somebody
do as many takes as I can.
As somebody who's worked with multiple voice actors for things, it's always better to just send like a bunch of different, like if you think it sounds like needs a better sound or something like that, just send all of the takes you've made, because at the end of the day, it gives them more options and it makes it a lot easier if you have like a bunch of things that you didn't think you'd need, but it turns out you needed them anyways.
It is really good advice to always send multiple takes. I mean, there are a lot of people who have a lot of confidence in what they send you, because some people are just like, oh yeah, that's the take. That's the one that they're going to like. That's the one. And so I'm just going to send them that one. And sometimes it's not always as you'd expect it. I mean, I've had collaborations where I've worked with people who only do the one take thing. And then I've had collaborations where people will send me like 10 different takes or whatnot, Black Griffin sent me one take, and thankfully his was the take that I needed. He sent me one take for Silhouette, and he also sent me some harmonies, for the bridge and whatnot. And thankfully it was just the take that I was hoping for. But again, just to play on the safe side, it's always good to send multiple takes just for variations, and because also they can possibly use those if they want to do like gang vocals or whatever on your voice in the chorus or that kind of thing. It's just always good to have more options is always better, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I got from Kitty, the voice actor I was working with, gave me a bunch of different vocal takes in different tones for what I was using it for, and like I ended up using every single one of them. So it's just
nice.
In general, better to have multiple takes for from voice actors, musicians, whatever. But I think unless somebody has something else to weigh in with that, we're gonna move to the next question.
A small thing.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
That actually is a learning experience for me as well. I would actually send one take a lot of the times, and I'd never think about that the whole time. But I would always be like, look, if you need me to re-record, let me know. I will re-record, or I will send multiple, but I don't know unless you tell me.
I'm guilty of that as well. We're figuring things out.
I think we all are at some point.
Learning.
Scarlet?
Yeah. What I was gonna say is, I could see that struggle too with regards to, because I do music and YouTube content, so I'm working with some voice actors from time to time as well, and I always appreciate those extra takes, because sometimes they might send you something absolutely silly that you can't use, but you're like, you know what? This will make a great blooper reel. I might as well just keep it. And that could turn into something funny and fun later down the line.
Yeah, one of the things that I do as a YouTuber when I do collabs is that whenever I have people that want me to record lines, I generally try to sit with them so they can tell me how to, like, I used to do a lot with Sawtooth Waves. That's actually how my channel got as big as it is. And whenever the two of us would sit down for a recording, I would do like 5, 10, 15 takes of the same line because like it wasn't quite satisfied with what I had. So yeah, I definitely understand like that the YouTuber side of that as well. But let's go ahead. Next question is by user -1. One question I have is what y'all's favorite audio plugins or audio plugin brands. He gave the examples of UHE, Fab Filter, UVI, Kilohertz, etc.
I will
Favorite
pipe.
plugins. I don't know. There's been a number of mixing tools that I've used, paid and free, that I really like. One tool that I really like is, I'd say one of my favorite paid plugins that I ever bought was called it's called Escalator, which is like a one knob saturator tool, and it's like if you want to be lazy and you want a fat sound, I just reach for that every time, and it's managed to generate good results.
The sound goodizer.
For music tools, I think like for any wavetable synth, I just immediately get drawn to Vital more than any other synth VST out there. It's just got such a huge. It's basically Serum but free. And I'd say the only thing you lose if you use Vital over Serum is there's not as much producer packs. But if you want to just explore and go and create a bunch of sounds, make your own patches, get Vital. It's awesome.
I really like a couple of them actually. The Tina Guo cello. It's a classic. You know, if you're into orchestral stuff or doing just generalized, pop and whatever.
Which plugin?
Tina Guo cello.
Oh.
It's a cello plugin for specifically meant to simulate a very pretty darn realistic sounding cello. I really like that one, and I can't recommend Easy Drummer enough because as long as you know how to use it, you can get your drums to sound pretty realistic. Same thing with Addictive Keys. I like Addictive Keys. They have a very what do you call it, raw and real tone in my eyes. And I don't know, there's a lot of them that I could. Okay, here's one that I just recently discovered. It is well worth it because I think the free version you only get like for a month or whatever. But if you use this thing, if you need it, especially you can use it, especially if somebody gives you a take or you record a take that has some static in it or whatever. The Blue Labs denoiser, that thing is so good. It'll take out it'll listen to a small portion of what you want it to take out, and then it will remove it from the rest of the recording, and it is so nice. I did that with a song. I did that. It was actually for a commission where I had Bronwyn sing. The song was called "Leave Me Awake." And the take that she sent me was still filled with a bunch of white noise, and it was a very, very soft song. And so the white noise was going to be noticed unless I removed it, and I had to find a tool to do that because I didn't know how to do it manually. So it's called the Blue Lab denoiser, and it works like a charm. It makes it sound like you can remove practically anything, but the best thing it removes, at a professional sound is static and white noise. So good.
Ooh, nice. I'd have to say I don't really mess around with third-party plugins all that often. I typically just stick with like the stock FL stuff, and typically it works for me. But the main one that I typically go to, since I consider myself more of a composer rather than like a sound designer or like an audio engineer, I typically use a lot of the sounds from Flex most of the time because they have like a million different presets that I like to cycle and mess around with. So I like that a lot.
Nice.
For me, I've found that East West Composer Cloud has been invaluable. It's like $15 a month, and you get access to 44,000 Hollywood sampled orchestra and various other synths and a whole bunch of stuff. I am going through those, and I'm always discovering something new that I can use in my music that's like, ooh, that sounds really cool, or ooh, that's exactly what I was looking for. And it's helped with a lot of my bigger type orchestral type pieces, as well as some of my rock music. Although I definitely want to learn how to actually play more of the rock stuff so that it's more authentic. But it gets really good results for what it is.
Okay.
I will now say I've dropped thousands of dollars on third-party plugins.
Okay. I kind of have too, but it's more in the hundreds, not thousands.
Yeah. Well, when you do orchestral, and I don't do the subscription model, I buy my stuff outright, so that's why.
Yeah, fair point.
But
Fair enough.
I've found, like, instruments-wise, if I'm doing orchestral, I full-on so do most of my stuff is Spitfire Audio. They're just
Yes.
absolutely
yeah,
unmatched in their quality.
Spitfire Labs is like the best like budget chamber strings I've ever heard. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's paid ones better out there,
The strings are beautiful.
but
For those who
the
don't know,
chamber-
Spitfire Labs is a series of instruments and plugins that are free, and they sound pretty darn good.
yes, and they
Yeah.
take up little space in your hard drive if you want to save space on your little hard drive.
I will say that is one of the downsides with East West is it takes up a lot of space.
Oh, yeah. The fatter the samples, the fatter the memory.
Indeed. But besides, like, and then I'll, like, so I'll drop a few $100 per instrument on that, and then I'll drop $5 on like a pack that sampled one of those toy keyboards from the 90s, and I absolutely love it.
That is just like the most random one to be. Oh, that's hilarious.
Indeed. But besides that, honestly, stock plugins, the ones that come with the DAW, is what I use the most in my stuff. And so that's just a lesson learned. It took me thousands of dollars spent to learn that, actually the ones that come with the software are really good.
Oh yeah.
Learn to use them. Just gotta learn how to use them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, next question. What is your favorite thing about making music for the fandom? From Kaput. She experimenting with known songs or motifs, specific character songs, etc.
I'm gonna stay out of this one.
Ooh.
So we're gonna pick on.
Being a musician in the fandom.
Yes.
Okay.
We're
I think
gonna.
my favorite part are the live shows, both performing and just being there, and seeing people and supporting people, and putting faces to names. Definitely is what gives me a lot of energy and motivation.
Especially at conventions.
Yeah, I can second that or third that.
Yeah. But I think another thing that I just absolutely adore about the fandom is everyone's willingness to work together to help lift you up in your quality of craft. And just the encouragement and the support that they all give you, it's almost unmatched
really.
elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fair about this. It didn't used to be that way, actually. It was back in the early days of the fandom. I mean, yeah, the people who were bigger names, they worked together, but it was really, really tough back then to actually get into it and get noticed, and to get your foot in the door. Because if you don't have everything that they're hoping you might offer, or something specific that they're looking for, then it's going to be pretty tough. It was pretty tough, rather. Nowadays, it's a lot more open-ended, and People are a lot more supportive, and they're willing to just work with you and do what you can do and add what you can do to their song. That's how it is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a fun project happening in the Creator Hub called Pony Minute Massacre. That's really interesting.
Ooh,
Yes.
Pony Minute Massacre.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it already, for those of you here as guests, you should check it out.
I already did one part for it, but I might do another. If they'll
And
let
I've
me.
done
I
3
wish I
parts
think
for
they
it, and
will.
I'm doing another, and I can't wait for that to be released to the
Save
public.
some for the rest of us, darn it.
Sorry. I just have so much fun with the concept.
Nah, you're good. I'm just playing.
See. Anybody else have anything they wanted to add?
Yeah, I might actually add to at least the first question. And I don't have much for the other 2 parts of it, but favorite thing about making music involving or for the fandom, shoot, genuine people, their responses to it. I think that's
Mhm.
pretty much sums it up for me.
Oh yeah.
Just genuine people.
Yeah.
Definitely a good
Genuine
response.
person.
I definitely know that as a creator, the first time I got recognized, I just about fell over because I was just like, oh my god, somebody knows who I am.
Yeah.
That is a splendid feeling. I even got recognized in an IKEA once. It was
Oh my lord.
Oh my god. This has got a good story.
That's
That's
a
wonderful.
interesting. I haven't heard
That's
that
how
one before.
That's how you know.
Yeah,
you've made
no,
it. That's how you know. you've made
well, it was to be fair, Everfree Northwest had just happened, and so somebody who went to Everfree Northwest and saw my show, and I guess lives in the area, because that's where I am located. I'm located in the Pacific Northwest, and really 20 minutes away from the Everfree Northwest location, and somebody had just recognized me because they saw my set on Saturday or whatever, and it was like Monday. So anyways,
Still really cool. Either way.
it was a really cool feeling. It was pretty awesome.
So Whirlwind, we got a question specifically for you from WJ2.
Yes. I saw this in the comments.
I'm gonna go ahead and read it out. Do you have any advice for drummers in the chat who want to perform at conventions?
Yes, I have quite a bit of advice. First is the one I mentioned earlier about keeping yourself involved with common-minded musicians, and and it's a little bit I would kind of agree with Goonie in a sense that it's a little bit easier nowadays than it was before, because there's easier ways to communicate and whatnot, but I would say probably my biggest advice is to just start filming yourself. Put yourself on YouTube, because that's how I got discovered by Forrest. Again, Forrest put me on the spot at Everfree Northwest in 2019, and it was actually a combination between that and Drummer Shy, who was also originally, I believe, was supposed to originally perform with that. And Forrest got checked out my stuff, and then I thought it was pretty cool at the time, knowing it was Forrest Rain, because I've been listening to her music for a long time too. So, but that's a whole different story. But eventually, other people caught up on that, and then sooner than later, I got more people asking me to what conventions are you going to, and it's always nice to always ask too. If hey, if they're piecing together a band and you happen to be showing up at a convention and or somewhere nearby, sometimes it's worth messaging them. But that's kind of how I got involved with drumming for other musicians or playing for live acts in the community, and hopefully that can apply to you.
I'd imagine that
Thrak.
some of it. Go ahead. You first.
Oh, I was just gonna say Thrak got noticed that way too. It
Ah.
was just because he got noticed by Pony1 Kenobi or P1K. And it was just because he put out videos of himself drumming.
Okay, so here's
that was it.
Here's a funny story, and this is probably off topic, but I've known Thrak and him being a drummer for like 7 years, and he started uploading stuff on iFunny of all things way back in the day.
That's
Man.
funny.
So that's how I kind of got to know Thrak a little bit. But then I deleted iFunny. I got off that app. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's that same guy when I rediscovered Thrak. This is like 2 or 3 years ago.
Funny.
So that was really cool.
But what I was going to say, I'd imagine that it's also one of those things where you actually want to approach and talk to other musicians at a convention. You actually got to like network a bit to start getting your name out there as well. Because if you just sit in a corner and do your own thing, it's a little harder for people to just discover you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very true.
So
Yep, you gotta put yourself out there. Be at conventions, talk with other musicians, apply for big, compilation albums. Shoot for the stars, and eventually you'll get noticed.
you'll hit something eventually.
Yeah.
I will.
And even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars.
I will say that at the very least, if you go to a convention and Goonie's going to it as well, he's very easy to find. He's normally out in front of like the main stage at a table with his wife selling CDs. So go say hi to him.
Yeah.
Please,
And that's another
I need
note.
friends.
Goonies like
I
a
need friends.
maestro to like selling and vending and all that stuff. Like he's always there.
I have yet to like see him not there. It's gonna be weird because I'll have to figure out where he's hiding this time because we're using a new venue for HarmonyCon.
Yeah, there is that.
I'm guessing it'll be likely right outside of main stage.
I would think so, but
The guys over at HarmonyCon are usually really, really courteous towards musicians, so they prioritize us very well. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I know Blue occasionally will be out there as well.
Yeah, usually right beside Goonie.
Usually I sit with the metal kids, Prince whatever, Melody. I sit with them most of the time.
Yeah, and I noticed like they won't be out there as often as Goonie, but they will be out there a lot as well.
Yeah.
I run the grind.
Yeah. Also, another thing I forgot to mention for like getting into the con scene, every con has a Renegade stage, and
Yes.
Renegade stage is open sign up.
Do it.
And so, if you want to get your name out there, get practice on performing live in front of an audience of anywhere from 2 to 25 people, it kind of depends.
That I believe is how Kanto got noticed.
That is how Kanto and Thrak.
Yes.
That's how I discovered
Mhm.
Kanto. I saw Kanto literally outside the the door of BabsCon. I was like, dude, there's a Renegade stage. Go perform. You seem pretty dope. And then he played on Sunday. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like way overqualified for the stuff that I do. Please get him on the main stage. Yeah. That's the Kanto story, I guess.
I don't know so much about musicians though, but like as a community guest, I applied for a community guest spot, and I know a lot of people that didn't quite make it. I think it's just because it's like there's like 30 something guests this year for HarmonyCon, so they probably gave a bit of like they picked out like some familiar faces and some new faces, and then my understanding from the people I've talked to about it, they were just basically just like, oh my god, there's too many people. So I don't know if it's the same way with musicians where you can just throw an application out there to see if they'll let you on. But it's always worth a try if the convention that you choose to go to does that. And most of the conventions have a Discord server where you can talk to people, ask questions. That's where I figured out how to become a community guest.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say
Some
all
conventions-
US cons
Yes.
you can apply as a
Some-
musician.
Some US can. Well, yeah. I think currently all US cons you can apply, but it used to be for some of them, like BronyCon, you had to be invited.
That's my understanding for community guests was. So like I didn't even like entertained the idea because I was like small YouTuber, and then like I ended up, I think it was at one of the conventions, I asked Pepper specifically, like, hey, how do you become a community guest? And he's like, yeah, you just apply. I'm just like, what? When nobody's told me? But yeah, it's you'd be surprised how many of them will just like be like, yeah, just throw an application out there and we'll see about it. It is probably a good idea to try and get your name out there as much as possible so that people can like, it's not just a who are you? We'll take PW again. But yeah, it's definitely something that'll it's takes a little legwork, get your name out there, but it's definitely worth it in the end. We got 2 more questions, and then I think that'll be it for tonight. This next one's from Cupute again, and it's specifically to anyone who makes orchestral music. What is the best way to start making music from said genre, starting with bass tone for the song, creating melody, etc.? And what's the best instrument to work with?
I don't have too much experience when it comes to orchestral music, but I have messed around a little bit. The way I typically do it is I kind of start out with like a string. I typically use strings, trumpet, and then I use like a cello for the bass, and then maybe use a little bit of choir in there if I'm feeling extra fancy. But that's my amateur way of doing it.
I have some methods.
Do tell.
So, well, a lot of the times I'll start with something around the timbre, like piano, or something like a not really strings, like a whole bunch of strings, but maybe plucked strings or something.
Oh, like pizzicato?
Yeah, just something that I can create a melody with.
Yeah.
And I'll do that first, lay down my melody, and then from there, then I'll create sort of a foundation of something deeper, like any kind of bass notes or anything really deep that digs, I want to say, into your very soul. Something that goes underneath of it. And once you have a melody and you have that, then you can throw little tiny things here and there, small things that add to the song and just work in little silent spots, like let's say a little bit of some chimes in a little spot, or a little bit of just some odd instruments here or there that maybe replicate, let's say, birds flying or chirping, something like that. That's kind of what I do, because for me, making an orchestral piece is like I was saying at the beginning, it's like writing a musical story. You're telling a story with sounds. So that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, and I sometimes use a similar process, but I would also say definitely don't be afraid to use piano. That's often what a lot of classical composers would do, is they would start with a piano score and then they would expand it out to a full orchestral score. And then also don't be afraid to just play around with orchestral instrument libraries, because I often find that I'll just doodle around with some string riff and be like, I could build something with this, and then go from there. Or I'll like pull up a taiko drum or a snare drum or something and come up with a beat and be like, this could form the foundation for this sort of piece. And really I'd say experimentation can lead you pretty far in that as well.
Absolutely.
Just keep messing around till something sounds good. Sometimes it takes
I don't-
long, but you just do it.
Yep.
I don't mess around with orchestral stuff too much, but I always when I do, when I do mess around with orchestral things, I always use piano as a bass.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah, when I make an orchestral, piano is my primary instrument, so I usually come up with a melody and or chord structure on piano, and then I translate it to orchestral instruments. And so sometimes, like in the final product, piano will not be in there at all, but I usually start with the piano just so that I can get the bones of the song figured out.
Oh yeah.
Usually it's a melody line and then whatever block of chords sounds good with it. But yeah, it's a whole nother art form going from that step to orchestrating. You know, that's why you have a composer and then you have an arranger and you have an orchestrator. You know, it's a whole nother skill set, and it's one that you kind of have to learn and experiment as you go.
Oh yeah.
It's so much fun.
Okay.
And definitely also look at Wikipedia for some of the instrument ranges as well, because you never know if some day you end up getting recognized and some conductor approaches you like, I want to perform this piece, you would need to make sure that it's, you know, actually physically doable. And there's plenty of resources online on YouTube and Wikipedia and other sites that will tell you, okay, trumpet can't go that low, try bringing it up, or okay, that is not feasibly doable on that instrument. And that will definitely help you figure things out as well.
And it will sound more authentic that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that everybody answering that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the last question we're actually going to hold on to for when I do the voice actor, because it was asking about voice acting stuff. So when I do have the voice actors on here, we'll have that one pulled up. So other than that, I'm going to go ahead and do all the outro stuff. For those of you that may or may not be watching still, if you enjoyed that and would like to see more of it, then feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Huge thank you to all of the guests tonight. You don't be surprised if you see some of them again. I will probably be poking several of them more than once for various podcasts. Be sure to check out the links in the descriptions for all of their socials. Subscribe to their channels. All these guys deserve all the love for their amazing stuff. There's also links to my Discord and Patreon in the description. Check that out if you want to be on the... So we do this on a Discord stage in my server for patrons to listen in on there, and patrons will also get first comments read in case this starts getting bigger to the point where we actually have to cut how many questions we ask. They will get preferential treatment on that. I also end up generally sticking around a bit longer afterwards and chatting with whoever's still here, and you'll be able to listen in on that as well. Other than that, there's also the suggesting of topics and potential future guests, which guests are welcome to do as well. If you have podcast topics or guests that you would like to suggest, feel free to drop me the information in the forum there. Other than that, a big thank you to my Priest tier patrons, Equinox3141, Cameo Shadowness, I'm drawing a blank, Ice Crystal, Scarmex, and I believe that's everybody. Other than that, we will be doing a Lost Memories Second Chances stream tomorrow, a Heart of Darkness stream on Sunday, and then we'll be back next Friday with the Alicorn Discusses podcast. Everybody have a great evening, and don't forget to drink water.
Yes. Hail hydrate.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
Solar
Water.
The letter around me needs
I say